Hello team, welcome back to another Line War cast. This is your map. Today our two players are dtassassin spawning in red in the bottom right side of the map, and someone said that my nickname sucks in blue. I'm not sure where nickname's going right now, but again we have dtassassin in the bottom right, unless nickname picks this and we go to the phase where both players try to pick and then it's all grayed out, which is not the case here. dtassassin bottom right and nickname in top left. There's a bunch of trade routes on the left side of the map. There's no trade routes on the right side. And both players are spawning super far away from each other. DT Assassin's gone for 4 territories to start off with, so not picking all, like the entire 6 territories that they could. And Nickname's only gone for 5 territories, so there could have been a 6th one, and this is why. Nickname's going for triple trade route immediately by going on these towns. So the ports will probably follow relatively quick. Here's the first one. That Nickname's got a dock going. There's 2 relatively safe gases for Nickname to take. And if there's a lot of Navy involved, Nickname will need the gas, so that'll be okay. And DT Assassin's going for a very quick town. 3 industry would have been the pre-built buildings, 2 factories, and 2 barracks. So for the next little bit, both players are going to ramp up pretty heavily economically. DT Assassin is going to have a bunch of the map to be able to cap all the territories. Nickname, not as many territories to cap, but the 3 trade routes will be able to do a ton for the economic development. Nickname likely is going to go for a trade boat or a transport ship first, and that's exactly what's happening. Presumably Nickname's going to go across here to the main landmass, and this is the point. That's the landing point. DT Assassin's going for 2 more barracks, so it's going to be an explosion of infantry for DT Assassin, who has the first artillery piece out. Sam is on the way. And economically, both players are going to be relatively close for the first little bit. And it's going to take a long time for both players to like meet in the middle of the map here. Nickname's got the 3 ports on the way. I don't even know if this port... I think this port does connect to the top. This dotted line is a little bit thicker than you would expect, right? Like this dotted line looks not as thick as this one. So potentially these 3 are actually already connected, which is important. DT Assassin's at 395 income and Nickname's at 455. So it's a little deceiving. Nickname looks like they're ahead on eco right now, likely because of the 3 towns. I'd expect DT Assassin's income to catch up relatively quick because of the 4 barracks, which is going to pump out a lot of infantry to cap. And Nickname's making their way across to the main landmass right now. I think in general the game's going to depend on whether Nickname can get to this point of the map and take all of the trade routes, and how DT Assassin is going to handle that. But for now, we just sit back and watch this develop. Nickname's also going to go across the top, which is a super smart play. Yeah, the boat is going immediately to the top. And missile boats at the dock for Nickname. So the first trade route's up. We can see the blue line, and these are definitely connected now because we can see the gray line underneath this blue line. The blue line signifies that the 2 ports are actually done, and they'll start creating merchant ships for income. Nickname's following up with a second dock. And no new development for DT Assassin right now, who's just powering up on barracks. The airport, I'm not really sure what Nickname's going to build. I would think it would be commando drops, but because of these infantry already on the mainland, I don't actually know if Nickname's going to go for commando drops. And instead, that might just be helicopters. Helicopters could work. I mean, they could get across this body of water relatively quick. And so far, it is helicopters, unless Nickname hasn't changed the production on that airport quite yet. But helicopters, like I just mentioned, could make a lot of sense here. Transport boat is starting to pick up the infantry to go across the top. which is very important. Any landmass or any of the land on this main landmass that Nickname can start taking and start digging in on and building production is big, because otherwise, I mean, DT Assassin, if Nickname let DT Assassin take all of this landmass, I don't think 3 trade routes would be enough to offset the amount of income that Red would get from claiming all that territory on the mainland. First gas is done for Nickname. Still just missile boats out of both the docks. First transport ship has almost made its way to the top right. Income-wise, 641 for Nickname and 491 for DT Assassin. And Nickname's got the super quick trade routes, right? And now all 3 are done. Merchant ships are moving, making money. Nickname goes for a factory on the mainland. I think we can probably expect a relatively quick barracks behind this. And DT Assassin, I have to keep switching the viewpoint to see each player's economy and what units they're building. DT Assassin's starting to go for strikers. So with strikers, I mean, this gonna be a long time until both players see each other. So by the time there's actually a fight, DT Assassin will likely have an entire airport full of strikers, and here comes a second airport for Red. 2 factories now in the mainland for a Nickname. First helicopter landing right behind this factory. And with a combination of factory units and helicopters, it's going to take some sort of care from Red to be able to dislodge that. Neither player will see each other at this point. I mean, we can look at DT Assassin's vision and Nickname's vision. I mean, clearly they're not going to be able to see each other at this point. And Nickname's got a lot of water territory to cap. And of course, a navy here is going to help if Nickname wants to take these 2 trade routes and defend them. 4 infantry in the top right for Nickname, starting to cap. Second striker on the way for Red. And income-wise, 635 for DT Assassin and 789 for Nickname, who still maintains that lead economically off of these 3 trade routes. Nickname's going for a barracks, probably top right, and it is. 2 barracks in the top right. And I wonder if those are going to be I assume they're going to be making commandos, but they could be making infantry. We'll have to see what the plan is. DT Assassin's got a good mix of artillery and SAMs, and a good spread of how they're expanding. Very balanced along the front. And we're still just waiting for this fight to start. Once Red makes their way up here. Artillery only out of the factories right now for Nickname, who puts another factory down, probably in the top, and it is in the top. Depending on how many planes that Red gets and where the airstrips go, I think that's one of the big things that DT Assassin can do that changes the complexion of this game. Is just where DT Assassin decides to go. Like, is it to the north that the planes want to go, or is it to the south? If we look at DT Assassin's range on the planes, I mean, an airstrip up here is going to be able to hit the top, essentially. I mean, an airstrip just in the middle here is probably going to be able to help out in the top and to the west. Nickname's gotten 2 more barracks off of this insane economy, leading by over 200 total economy right now. Off of just these 3 trade routes are enormous. Infantry in the top for Nickname. And I wouldn't say that, like, by any means that this game is over or anything. Clearly not. DT Assassin's starting to catch up economically. There's tons of territory for Red to cap here. And DT Assassin's going for this city, or this town, pardon me, Likely because there's a port. Ports are one of the best economic buildings you can make based on how much you get back for your investment. It's part of why these ports are so important. On top of them also being trade routes for Nickname, who is going for a depot. Yeah, this is definitely a depot. There's not a refinery here, and it makes a lot of sense because Nickname really only has like a second gas. It's only 2 gas for all of these boats, all of the helicopters. So it makes sense that Nickname's going to spend some time trying to save up gas. Another town for DT Assassin, who I'd assume at this point is catching up pretty close. Still 100 income behind Nickname, who continues to make boats and continues to make helicopters. There's 4 helicopters on the mainland already. That is going to be quite the pain for DT Assassin to deal with. There's going to have to be like a lot of care for how many SAMs are sent to the west. 2 barracks and 1 factory with some reinforcing infantry for Nickname capping the top right. And Nickname won't see these commandos first. DT Assassin is going to be the first one to realize that Nickname's here, and there it is. Not that DT Assassin necessarily sees this artillery piece, but like contact has been made 12 minutes into the game. 926 income for DT Assassin and 1084 for Nickname. There's a very natural like defensive line that Nickname can kind of make through this mountain and all these forests. In general, mountains and forests will favor the defenders. You can see in the tooltip that different units will move more slowly through forests and mountains, especially when you don't control that territory. For mountains, it's even higher, this penalty. So that could make, you know, forests like this very good for the defending player, who in this case will be Nickname, who has already capped and will cap all of this forest, I think, with the help of these helicopters. And this is off of 1 gas. This many helicopters and this many boats moving uses up a ton of gas for Nickname, who goes for this 2nd gas, which is very timely. Airport in the top for Nickname. I mean, this is a lot of infrastructure on the mainland already. It's 4 factories total, including the one in the top right, and 4 barracks. So Nickname does want to go for this port. There's enough missile boats to be able to defend this. And that's one of the advantages that Nickname probably has on this map right now, is that even with these 2 airstrips, which are in a great position for DT Assassin, as kind of discussed earlier, this kind of central location. But with planes, it's going to be, I mean, this many missile boats, you definitely need some critical massive strikers to be able to take out this many boats. It's not like 1 airport does it. In even numbers, missile boats are going to shred strikers. Missile boats, someone said it, and I took it as the truth. Missile boats do the most DPS to air units, even more than SAMs. 1185 income for Blue. And 1232 for DT Assassin, who's now past Nickname. Because this capping velocity with all these barracks that were built, I think at this point has finally paid off for itself, in addition to the towns that DT Assassin's been getting. Of course, this city is also huge into this calculation. Helicopters doing great DPS because they can hover over their targets. They aren't like strikers. They have to fly over, hit the target, fly around, and then, you know, circle back to hit the target again. Helicopters can just hover. And that's why if they're allowed to just hover and there's no SAMs to attack them, they get huge value. There's about 2 dots worth of SAMs that are showing up now for DT Assassin, so this will make using the helicopters much more difficult. And Nickname's really dug in here. And likely for DT Assassin, they've been able to get to the south here a little bit and start capping this mountain range. And it will lead them to be able to cap the bottom left side of the map. We got to keep an eye out for how those SAMs do for red. Top of the map, still looking good for nickname. dtassassin's gonna find out the situation relatively quick. This is a nail-biting situation if you're blue. I guess all the SAMs aren't really here at the same time, so maybe the helicopters will be okay for a split second. But even then, one of them goes down, a second one potentially will. And it does. Holy cow, it does not. Of course, I knew that. That's fine. Two airstrips worth of strikers are taking a great line towards this artillery. And the key being is that red does not want these strikers to proc to these missile boats, because that would be tough. I mean, it's enough strikers that they might do okay against the missile boats, but it's definitely not what red would intend here. And now this is dtassassin's view, right? So we can see the 5-wide attack move, or cap move, through this forest. It's a good fight of helicopters versus the strikers. Missile boats kinda coming into play, but in general, dtassassin's done a good job to make this command just far enough away from the water that entire push of artillery for blue is cleaned up. On the way home, though, these planes are going to fly over the missile boats. Probably 3 strikers going down, potentially. Just 2, or maybe I didn't count. Maybe it was 3. Not really sure. And here's dtassassin's view. So, with all the artillery pieces and all the infantry, you gotta assume that blue has production in the top right, which could become a problem for red. Another factory for nickname, which is the play, and 5 barracks here for dtassassin, who's going for these. I mean, another town. Still no ports on those towns as of yet. It'll be a very difficult fight through this forest. I mean, this is where we have to watch. It's gonna be this area of the map, and also the top right area of the map that will determine who wins this game. 29 income for dtassassin, and 1564 for nickname. So now dtassassin has a pretty good income lead here. It's not enormous. I mean, given that both players have some money in the bank and are making a lot of money. But in general, these planes for dtassassin, which can go up to here on this blue range, they can't quite hit anything in the forest. And they right now, I mean, dtassassin, it looks like there's a spot in these forests, but I don't think that assassin can actually see that while playing the game. That's just like a replay thing. These 6 barracks are going to come in clutch. That's a lot of push that red can use. And with a good proper group up, and maybe some help with strikers, I think dtassassin can take this. If all the units keep walking in one by one, it's not going to go as well. But the SAM coverage for red is pretty good. So nickname has enough units that the commandos, I mean, they're not all seen, right? I mean, I guess as they get closer, the commandos show up to view. I mean, commandos have a little bit of a stealth bonus. So nickname's got to be a little bit careful about grouping units so that the SAMs don't go or the commandos don't go undetected. A whole airport of helicopters now in the top for nickname, which could be very important. I mean, there's no SAMs really for red up here. Income-wise, 1734 for nickname and 1775 for dtassassin. So we can just officially say at 20 minutes into this game that it is even. First port, on these rightmost towns for DT assassins going down. And this navy is really clutch. The port for for nickname is finished at this point, but it must not be connected to anything. Oh, I guess I'm just not looking at nickname's view. Yeah, okay, so it is already connected. We can see the blue line, and nickname's working on this port in the far west of the map. It's a great digging of artillery on this town. And with this many missile boats, again, it's just hard for DT Assassin to get rid of this town. Nickname's going for another airport. Here comes the helicopters. And this many helicopters are going to just do a great job against this much infantry for red. Ooh, this is a good airport. And another quick city for D2 Assassin. Which is great. That airport in the top right for nickname. I mean, that could do a lot of damage to that city. If that's helicopters even, I think could reach it. Not quite, but strikers definitely. Nickname's running out of gas, but using helicopters in the bottom left very effectively. A cool little Congo line of factory units for blue in the mountains. And I can already tell that I'm going to miss a lot in this game because it's such a wide front. And both players are going to be multitasking the heck out of all this. 3 barracks in the bottom left now for DT Assassin. And a third gas for nickname, which is really important because we keep hearing the beep beep. The Burt of nickname running out of gas. And now all these helicopters can't fly when they're out of gas like this. So commandos are going to pick off some things on the ground. These commandos to the left have a bit tougher of an assignment running into artillery. And I think red could probably snipe like even definitely a second helicopter, maybe even a third. Still waiting for that port, the final port for nickname. And the far left to get the 4th trade route going. Or the 5th trade route going, pardon me. And the city for DT Assassin is almost complete. 1900 income for DT Assassin, 1782 for nickname. If these helicopters can keep moving for nickname, that would be big because they can over time clear out all that infantry. DT Assassin's got 3 airstrips now that are within striking range of these, I mean pretty much within striking range of these factories. I think it falls just a little bit short, but there's still no SAMs for blue in the top right. Tons of artillery though. And this is quite the striker swarm. So this will be devastating damage. Potentially even a factory going down, but I doubt it. But instead, red's just wiping all of this artillery. This is a tough spot for DT Assassin to be, I think, between all these, like all this navy and then the air coverage that nickname's got. There's 3 interceptors for blue on this airport, which will be great to defend these units, as like strikers could definitely hit them. And just more factories for DT Assassin. It's just factories along this big 5-line all-army push. And it looks like it's mostly just arty SAM. So the SAMs are in a great spot for DT Assassin since they cover this airport perfectly. We heard 2 more factories go down, I think, right here. So it's just a gazillion factories now for red from the main base. These 3 barracks still doing work. This army of nickname is deadly. It's a good amount of SAMs and artillery. And the defensive lines of this artillery is huge for a nickname to stop those attacks. So dtassassin hits this gas, sees this industry, which is big. This airport still isn't scouted, and it's actually transport jets for a nickname out of this airport. So potentially like a commando drop on the city, or just like the main base of dtassassin. This game is certainly hectic. Still no SAMs up top. This could, I wonder how this would go if nickname had some SAMs. I mean, it's still such an absurd amount of planes, and dtassassin still has not scouted that airport, which could be important later. What's funny is dtassassin doesn't know it, but by going into the mountains with these SAMs, I mean, the SAMs could probably even just kill this airport. But it's hard to try to run SAMs into a mountain because you just never know what's going to be in the mountain. Because, you know, things in mountains have a little bit of a stealth bonus to them. Still a good fight here. I think red over time is going to get the upper hand as long as the interceptors can snipe the helicopters. And another supporting factory for red for that push. Yeah, here come these SAMs targeting the airport, and they do end up getting the snipe on it. So no more interceptors for blue here. And then what I assume is kind of like a little bit of a coup for red is that they're taking the bottom left side of the map, which is huge for the income, because that's going to take a lot of potential income away from nickname. dtassassin said just over 2k. And did I see that wrong? Is that 2,700? No, okay, so it's 2,150 income for nickname, so nickname's still ahead by the numbers. These commando drops are going to be deadly. dtassassin's gonna have to notice it pretty quick and then also get the planes back home in time to defend. But besides this changing colors and then the transport jets, which are in view for like a little bit, it's not like there's any warnings in this game saying that there's commandos dropping behind your lines. So there's enough strikers that even though the SAMs are going to do damage to red's planes, this army is now in a lot of trouble. I think nickname really only... I have to keep switching views to see the players' lines. But yeah, nickname is going to try to attack to the south here. If nickname can trade this army for these 3 barracks, I think given the situation, that's a win. Still defending the foothold. This is getting a little bit scary for nickname. And now dtassassin finally sees this airport. We know, I mean, based on... it's 3 interceptors, so interceptors get a lot of vision. City's gonna go down. Refinery's gonna go down. And all these planes are gonna have to like make their way to defend. I wonder if dtassassin even sees it. I mean, it's not necessarily something that you would see immediately. At this point, potentially. But I mean, look at how many fronts are going on right now. How many fights? I mean, there's this back point. This is still a thing that both players care about. The main thrust of the push. And then I guess this little corridor. It'll be hard for red to actually push into this forest. Like we talked about before, that forests are super good for the defender. And nickname's putting down so many barracks and I have no idea where it is. Probably to the left here. Yeah, okay, so it is. 6 barracks for nickname, who's at almost 2,300 economy, floating 1k. And dtassassin's at 1989. So now nickname's back in the lead economically. This is just really such a huge play. Like this is probably the game-ending play, or what will be the turning point in this game. DT Assassin sending units to the back to start defending against these commandos, which is definitely the play. And running a little bit out of gas. This army gets cleaned up though, that's a good thing for Red, who's made their way to the left side of the map. The furthest left side, so DT Assassin could snipe that trade route, which would be big. And DT Assassin has like interceptors on the airport that is actually within striking range of Nickname's airport in the top right. And interceptors can't really do all that much damage to airports and buildings in general. So I'm interested to see what DT Assassin's gonna do to try to defend that. More factories for Red. Or I heard the factory, not really sure where it is. 3 barracks in the back for Nickname. And those get super annoying. I mean, if Red forgets about those barracks or doesn't scout them out because they are in the forest, it could be devastating. Okay, so here we go. There's 5 interceptors and 3 strikers that are going to try to deal with this airport, with this other airstrip sending its planes as well. DT Assassin's definitely going to be able to clear this. But this is still pain in the bottom right for Red to try to clean up all those commandos. Planes from Nickname's main base at this point can start defending the commandos. And income-wise, DT Assassin's running out of income per minute at just under 2k total income. And Nickname's at still almost 2,300. This is good defense. The city is not going to fall. And off of 5 barracks worth of production, DT Assassin's going to be able to clean up these barracks. For Nickname, these proxy barracks. I suppose those 2 commandos could snipe that city. We gotta keep watching that. It's so many artillery for Red, but the defensive lines are gonna make it such a pain to be able to push through and hit these factories. It's gonna buy Blue a lot of time. So at this point, we've pretty much got every single territory that's been capped by somebody. Seven barracks now for Nickname, which is going to slowly cap back all of this on the left-hand side of the map. If DT Assassin loses this left-hand side of the map, I think this game becomes way more difficult than it already is. I mean, look at how many... like, how much multitasking is going on right now. Income-wise, Nickname's almost at 2,400, and DT Assassin is now losing money per minute at nearly 2,000 total income, and running a little bit out of gas, so this is a very scary moment for Red. Sam's fighting Sam's. In this case, the player who has more Sams is going to win. This is very good for Red. Finally enough artillery that they're going to start breaking through this defensive line. DT Assassin is out of gas and needs to find another gas relatively quick. But getting rid of this airport is big for Red. Definitely a big win there. To not have to deal with the commando drops as much. Jeez, this is quite the game. There's, I mean, commandos fighting infantry here. This fight's going super well for Red as long as these planes don't kill all the artillery. There's enough SAMs, they're not really forward enough to be able to hit all the strikers. And importantly, if the SAMs are closer, then the strikers won't even attack their artillery. They'll try to attack the SAMs instead. But either way, I think DT Assassin is still going to be able to push and destroy these buildings, potentially. Nickname's got a great amount of buildings here, and we're seeing tanks for the first time. Tanks would be huge if Nickname gets the tanks over this mountain range. Because it's wide open field, the tanks can essentially drive right to the core of DT's Assassin's starting position, who is now officially cleared all of those barracks. And an enormous artillery SAM army for Nickname that started to push. This is going to be very difficult to deal with. Yeah, so here's Nickname's tanks and a rocket. I was about to say someone's gonna build a rocket. I don't think for DT Assassin, who's now over 2k income, I don't think they could afford it. But Nickname can, and Nickname is building that rocket. I think DT Assassin is going for this big frontal push. And I like it. I mean, this is the core of Nickname's production for this left side of the map, and it would really expose this trade route if these units could actually clear all of this production on the coast. But Nickname's just using their insane bank to just build a rocket pad, a launch pad rather, whatever terminology, and 2 airports. In addition to the factories and the barracks over here. Nickname's at almost 2,400 and still making money. And slowly but surely, although this is really good, I think Nickname's gonna be in like a commanding position in this game because this army is so terrifying. Okay, well I lost track of the tanks, but the tanks aren't here anymore, so clearly they got cleaned up. DT Assassin does have a ton of air units, so once they saw the tanks, could probably just send a sortie of 30 gazillion planes on them. And that would be it. With all the Navy so close to these buildings on the coast, there's no way Red can use planes to attack any of this infrastructure. Just because there's so many missile boats. DT Assassin really needs another gas, but it's hard to afford it right now. This is great for Red, but Blue is capping the bottom left. It's so many boats for Blue. One single SAM for DT Assassin chilling up here doing a ton of damage to planes. Absolutely wonderful. It's not going to be able to take out any planes on that run. But I wonder how long it was there. It's just too many artillery here. It's great that DT Assassin is targeting this airport again to not let Nickname start just commando dropping. Nickname's got a third of the rocket on the launch pad now. I don't really know exactly where Nickname would want to send this thing. Maybe even these buildings. Or this could just be a rocket that is built with the intent to be defensive, potentially. If Nickname sees a big blob at some point. This army is starting to spread out a little bit. It's still very scary, but it's... I mean, this army of Blue is going to be particularly difficult to deal with. DT Assassin sniped that easternmost airport for Nickname again, who is now over 2,500 income. And DT Assassin about 1,800. This navy for Nickname has all game been a pain for DT Assassin, because all of these units this whole time they've been attacking boats in this little bay, they attack boats on this coast. You know, these boats are like taking fire, so like all these units start to, you know, spread out a little bit. You're seeing what I'm seeing. A lot of planes against a lot of SAMs and a lot of artillery. DT Assassin has to make this play. I mean, this is definitely the right play. Unfortunately, even though it's a tough trade to make, I don't think Red can just sit and watch this army approach any further. And so it kind of, I mean, sending the planes in like this, yes, a lot of planes are lost, but it does thin out the artillery a little bit. Still a very good army for Red, but there's only 3 SAMs at this point. And I think Nickname has airplanes. Yeah, there's an airstrip right here, and here comes the airplanes. So now there's 2 SAMs. These infantry were able to take out one of the SAMs. And after this point, with all the artillery in the mountains, they'll move very slowly. And Nickname will just start to pick them off with planes. Rocket is almost done for Blue. And Nickname's going for another airport, and why not? And when we saw how effective those commandos were at the beginning of the game, or I guess not beginning of the game, earlier in the game, really like a turning point with those commando drops, so it makes sense that Nickname would try to do it again. There's no anti-air for Red here, so slowly these strikers are going to be able to pick them all off. This is a very important fight for Red, because if Blue just rolls here, there's no real chance that DT Assassin's going to be able to cap this bottom left anymore. Okay, thankfully I looked over and we're not going to miss this one. Yeah, it's going right into production. It's going to get all the buildings except for one, I think. All the buildings except for 2 of them, which really clears the way for all of these production facilities to just push. Nickname's got a third of a rocket on the stand again. There are lines everywhere. It's line war. That's to be expected. And Nickname's still making boats. $2681 income for Nickname. 1800 for DT Assassin. And like, this is good for DT Assassin. But as this army gets closer to Nickname's base, all the planes come back into play, and there's really not that many SAMs down here. It's a good ground-based push from DT Assassin here. And as discussed earlier, with all the boats in play, DT Assassin kind of has to attack all the production on this coast with ground units and can't use the planes, which is a huge disadvantage. 2 docks for Nickname. And I assume those are going to go for missile boats. And they are. To protect this airport that has 1 transport jet made now. Off of 3 airports, Nickname's going to get a bunch of strikers that can help defend against all these ground units. And with another rocket, I wonder where Nickname's going to send that other rocket, or if they send it right away. 2 more airports on the left-hand side for Nickname. And I like that DT Assassin is reinvesting barracks in the bottom left. Because it's important. Like, all that economy in the bottom left is super important for DT Assassin to continue to contest. Interceptors trying to check for any commandos that could have been dropped. Fortunately slash unfortunately for DT Assassin, there aren't any commandos dropped in that location yet, so it's a good idea to scout. Or they might be even just trying to intercept any commando, like the transport ships that would be flying over. Nickname's out of gas. We can see the black plumes of smoke from the planes indicating that they're out of gas. And if these buildings get targeted, this is really good for DT Assassin. I wonder what Nickname's building out of these airports. Strikers, more strikers. Second rocket of the game is almost done. 4 blue. It just depends if Nickname wants to use it right now. But we'll just go big picture. We'll assume the left side of the map is about where we left it. 3 airports worth of planes, though. They build planes so quickly. Yeah, here comes the rocket. I'm gonna guess that Nickname's gonna put it right here-ish. On these 2 airstrips. And it's gonna get all 3. Which just makes this way more difficult for Red. Almost 2,600 income for Nickname and 1,800 for DT Assassin. One heck of a game. 4 missile boats for Nickname down here. That really cements it, I think. Because at this point, DT Assassin has no way to, like, punish this airport. And now Nickname can just start dropping commandos here all day. The 3rd rocket is almost done already. I don't even understand how it's built this quickly. It always catches me off guard how quick the 2nd and 3rd rockets are built. Because, you know, you don't have to wait for the launch pad to be made anymore. And with all the planes, Nickname's gonna clean this up. Yeah, 2 airports worth of strikers. Slowly over time, we're gonna be able to chip away at this red army in the bottom left. I could push through the central part of the map here from DT Assassin and a decent number of SAMs. But this is a huge problem. For Red Commandos back on DT Assassin's part of the map. What a game. I don't know how both players keep up and kept up with all of this action on multiple fronts. I mean, I suppose if DT Assassin somehow drove, like capped all of this to the left, killed the airports and got rid of this trade route, and started working on all these buildings, while also defending here, maybe this could be a comeback. But that's a pretty tough thing to do. I think this transport boat's gonna start going across, and that's just gonna make it so there's more commandos over on DT Assassin's part of the map. It's just too much already, Sam. Through this forest. Nicknames are putting down 2 more factories. Okay, and the rocket, the 3rd rocket is almost done. For Nickname. Too much already, Sam, at this point. 3 commandos on the city. There's a lot of units on the map. if it isn't clear with how, you know, the way the game's rendering for me right now. Yeah, 2 airports full of strikers are slowly just gonna chip away at this army. Then all those strikers that are dealing with these units could probably pick these off. It's a great race to the airport from dtassassin here to catch all these strikers on the way home. They're probably gonna be able, I'm surprised they couldn't get that one, unfortunately. There's a potential SAM buff on the way, so that the SAMs will target the most damaged aircraft within range, not just the closest one, so that they would actually pick this airport off, or this airplane off. Oh, it's a town. Which, I mean, Nickname has a huge bank, so they can just keep launching these rockets. City down for dtassassin, and that's gonna, I mean, cut into the income in like an enormous way. Yeah, props to both players. These are both the 2 top of the ladder players. Multiple fronts being, you know, engaged in the whole game. How did this? Oh, Nickname blew this up. Yeah, Nickname knows that there's enough boats, and there's no dock in this little bay, so Nickname would have got rid of those docks themselves so that they didn't have to pay the upkeep costs. And you know, dtassassin's starting to cap this left side of the map again. But it's really this part of the map that it's just hard. Nickname's slowly moving through this forest. And now there's probably very few planes left for dtassassin. Yeah, there's only the 2 airports. There's commandos everywhere. If you're listening to this and you're dtassassin, I mean, this is the view you're getting. You hear commandos everywhere. You can't see all of them. Things are blowing up. The gas is low. With interceptors now, interceptors are great scouts, so as they fly over, they spot the commandos, but then they fly past and the commandos are gone again. Well, these SAMs must have done great, because there's no planes on this airport anymore. Anyway, props to both players. This was a tough one to keep up with. Multiple fronts. Very quick once they got into it. Very fun. I hope you enjoyed watching. Props to Nickname for posting this in the Match Replays channel in the Discord. Props to both players for putting on a show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for the support. We'll see you around. Have a great night, day, evening, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever it is for you. Enjoy, folks. Peace.